Hey, what's going on? Ryan from Applicant Pro here, and today we're going to talk about, kind of the mentality that founders and founding teams should have when it comes to how they should approach hiring and what role they should play in it. Make sure you stick around to the end. We've got this really cool download, a competitive hiring master plan. It's basically a document that will walk you through how to think about your hiring and how to set up kind of the master plan and vision for what you're going to do to execute and turn hiring into a competitive advantage for your SaaS company. All right, for the last 3 years, I've had a mentor, Dan Martel. He's phenomenal. Most likely, if you're in the SaaS space, you probably know him, and if not, you should get to know him. But one of the quotes that he's given me, and he brings it up all the time because I tend to try to do more things than I should, is 80% done by somebody else is 100% effing awesome, right? And the entire concept behind that is very similar to a concept in this book that I'm reading called Who Not How. It's that as founders, we tend to hold on to too many things, and we need to figure out how to hand those things off, or it's actually going to stifle our ability to grow. And so you've got one group of mentors or authors or whatever you want to call them out there saying, I need to get better at building teams and handing off things so that I don't have my arms all deep down into the low-level activities. On the other hand, if you read enough books about management and scaling companies, they'll tell you that there are a handful of things that founders should hold on to and that the CEO should be involved in, and one of those is recruiting. And so there is kind of this trade-off here of, wait a minute, should I be in control of recruiting? Or wait a minute, should I find somebody to hand this off to? And to be honest, I think the answer is not that simple. It's not a 1 or 0 yes or no answer. There's actually the right way to think about this. It's a little bit different, right? And so the very first thing and the concept here is you need to break up the concept of recruiting into 2 separate parts. If you think about like the customer attraction funnel, we have marketing and we have sales, and it's 2 separate parts of the acquiring a new customer, and we should look at recruiting the same way. Break it in half. The first half is what I'd call sourcing and screening. It's finding job applicants, things like posting jobs and pushing to job boards and generating traffic coming in and turning that traffic into an applicant and screening those applicants to filter out the 50% that are not a good fit for you. Sourcing and screening is extremely labor intensive. It needs constant and consistent attention, and it can easily be handed off. That is the part of recruiting that should be handed off and should not be in the seat of you or your founding team or your managers. They shouldn't be writing job ads, posting jobs, generating applicants, and doing initial screening. It's huge a waste of your time. And so better results would be given if you gave that to a pro, if you took it away from your team members and had one individual do that for the entire team. Now, the second half, interviewing, making the selection, deciding who we're going to hire, making the final decision, negotiating the offer, those types of things, they definitely should be done by the founding team or by the managers. You as a CEO should be at least interviewing high-level candidates, definitely interviewing everybody that you extend an offer to until you grow to a certain point where it becomes unable to continue to scale that way. But you need to make sure that you know exactly who we're going to make the final decision on. And the reason for that is there's this quote, whoever, if you look at each of these people you're about to hire, just ask yourself, would you want 10 more of them? If the answer is no, you shouldn't hire them. If the answer is yes, that's exactly the type of people you put onto your team. But the founder and the CEO and the founding team and the high-level managers, they need to be deeply involved with that selection. And so that's the part that you should keep to yourself. You should not hand that out to an HR person or hand it out to your admin or anything like that. Doing those interviews, making sure there's culture fit and values fit, that they have the potential that you need to grow your organization. And this is where you can make the most impact, but it's also where doing the sourcing and screening will get you so exhausted that you won't do a good job at it. There's a reason why this is so powerful by splitting it up, and it's that you don't need to step in. You can go about your normal job, building product, driving revenue, generating leads, all that kind of stuff that is the normal job of a founding team or founders or even managers. You can do those activities while somebody else is screening applicants and finding them. And then you'll be stepped in. You'll step in when you're fresh. you're engaged, you can conduct those interviews and decide who to actually hire. And that's why this split up is so important. Now, the question then becomes, who do we hand off the screening and sourcing to? And there's a handful of options. Number one, you could hire an agency, which in the recruiting world would be like a recruiter or a headhunter. They're crazy expensive and they charge a percentage of the first year salary. And many of them wouldn't help you with jobs like support and success and some of those lower level jobs, right? Number two, you could hire a part-time person, right? You could find somebody to just do it 10 or 20 hours a week, because the problem is going to be, depending on your size, you probably don't, even up to 100 employees, you probably don't need a full-timer doing this job. Be very careful about hiring an HR person. Look, I love HR people to death, but they tend to have a compliance hat on of protecting the organization. And while you need to make sure that you're legally compliant and that you don't break the law, you also are going to require a whole lot of creativity when it comes to driving, sourcing, and screening. So whoever you have do that job, they should know as much about marketing as hiring, right? And so then the last option is you outsource it, called an RPO, a recruiting process outsourcing. Again, you're not outsourcing the entire recruiting process. You're outsourcing the screening and sourcing of applicants. It's similar to a recruiter, but they don't get you as far down the pipeline. They don't deliver you just 3 people. They just screen out, say, the first half. So those are your options for how you can go about handing off the front end of the funnel. You could use your admin. Just be very careful. If you use an admin or receptionist, your accountant, anything like that, number one, it may not be their number one priority. That's a problem. If you just throw it on somebody else's plate, recruiting will take the back seat. And especially at a growing company, you need to be sourcing candidates and screening them all the time. It can't be we just do it when there's a problem or when we need to hire. It needs to be constant attention every day to doing that. So just make sure whoever you hand it off to knows that this is their primary responsibility, whether that's an internal employee or an external team. They need to be focused on consistently bringing in applicants and screening them down. So that is the takeaway. Again, think about it, that there are parts of this that you need to have your hands on and parts of it that you need to get out of the way of. And again, break up screening and sourcing applicants from selecting, interviewing, and hiring them. 2 separate parts. One part belongs to you, one part belongs to somebody else. Now, I told you if you stuck around to the end, I'd tell you how to download a guide. In this email, below this video, wherever you're watching this, there should be a download link below that shows you how to get our competitive hiring master plan. This is how you create a master plan or approach or vision for creating a hiring process that will be a competitive advantage for you as you compete against all the other people out there in the world. It will ensure that you focus on your strengths, not on your weaknesses, that you don't copy bad habits or even best practices from people who are not like you, like big giant companies if you're small. So download the master plan guide today. Until next time, good luck hiring.